Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. So if you want to scale profitably, you need two things working, two engines working together in your business. You need to acquire and you need to retain your customers. Today, we're going to break down why email is still one of the most undervalued growth levers and how it pairs with ads to compound your returns. Yes, we're talking about email. It is not dead. It is very much alive. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly why we mean that email is a vital function. A simple way to think about email is the profit lever. It's not just a nice to have, it's an essential for growing your business. We're looking at a practical framework here for making your ads and email work together as one system and not as two separate teams. And at the end, we're going to have some very great ideas, a retention playbook that you can implement quickly, what you can automate, what to measure, and what to improve first. Joining me today is Stephen Gringlas. He's a founder and CEO of PCOS Media, Melbourne-based performance-led e-commerce growth agency specializing in email marketing, paid media, and creative strategy. Stephen, he's known for a very direct, practical approach to growth, building, marketing that drives revenue, not just engagement. And we're going to look at why Stephen is saying that email is not dead, but very much a key part of your marketing and growth strategy. Look, Stephen, marketing, it's a frustration for many business owners. They know it's essential, but it seems to me like they're flying the marketing rocket, but half of the engine is still in boxes next to the launch pad. When the rocket doesn't fly, they just give up. Am I being too harsh, or is this something you see a lot of?
No, you're definitely not being too harsh. Unfortunately, it is something that we see way too much of. The people kind of like go in big, they get excited and they start and they launch one campaign or a couple of ads and they test an email. And if it doesn't generate the exact return that they're looking for, or it's not perfection the first time, I just see time and time again, people just almost giving up on it, to be honest.
And look, there's a very key reason for that. And look, we're not just talking about the work that you're doing with your clients, but in terms of how you've also grown your business. That success strategy of, I think many of us will look at and we'll try a campaign, we'll try a tool or social media and won't get the results. But email is still essential. Why is it that we keep hearing email is dead, but when we keep digging back the layers, email is still one of the foundations to growing your business?
I think people think email is dead because their own personal interaction with email is that it's all spam, it goes to the junk folder, it's all just these emails that come through that are a promotion or a sale. But I think if people really looked and analyzed their habits online, they'll realize they're actually still opening that email, they've read that email, they've engaged with that email, and more often than not, they've actually probably clicked and gone to the website. And when people then realize what they're doing is they're engaging with that brand again, they're coming back in action with that brand, and that means that email worked, right? So that was the job of that email, was to get you to re-engage and to click and to go back to the website. And I think people just are frustrated, and it's a more old school tool that's like not as cool and as sexy as AI and ads and social media. And it's been around for a while. But I think with the uptake of all these other platforms, I've seen that emails just become even stronger personally. So we're gung-ho on making email work, and we time and time again get results for ourselves and for our clients.
So email, very key. And you mentioned a couple of things there. You're talking about re-engaging customers, which is really important, because I think a lot of business owners, they focus so much on getting that initial sale. They spend a lot of time, energy, funds getting that initial sale, but they seem to be leaving money on the table by not re-engaging or keeping engaged with their customers.
Absolutely. I think this applies really well for service-based businesses as well as e-commerce businesses. And my general focus with PCOS is very much more around e-commerce businesses. Our clientele is e-commerce. We work on their ads, we work on their emails. And one of the frustrations that I have and the issues that we kind of have to try and deal with a lot of these e-commerce brands is exactly that, is that they're all focused on new acquisition and new shiny objects and trying to get that next customer. But they forget about all these people that came before, that they know their brand, they've bought a product, they've interacted with it, they've felt it, they've held it, like they've engaged with that brand, and they're always moving on to the next one. And I think one of the things that we talk a lot about is your lifetime value of a customer. How many people are coming back? What's your win back rate? Do you have automation set up? There's this big marketing funnel that comes all the way from awareness, and it takes sometimes days, weeks, months to get someone down to a conversion. You've spent all this time, money, and effort on it, and then you're just ignoring those people. And I think it's so crucial to make sure that we focus on that audience, and that's that retention model. And that's where I see email really coming in and really having the most amount of value, because people know the brand. It's much easier to make that conversion. So focusing on that lifetime value of a customer, I think, is really crucial. The other thing with e-commerce, which is difficult, is that if you have to acquire every new customer through paid ads, which I'm not saying don't do, I think it's a great channel, but it means that every single sale has this additional cost. Where with email, yeah, sure, Klaviyo has a monthly subscription, or if you're using MailChimp or whatever it might be, like there's a very small relative cost from an email perspective compared to paid ads. And I think that the combination of the two of them just work beautifully.
So we've got what we call a cost of acquisition. So you've mentioned that there, each time you get a new customer, there is a cost of acquiring them.
Yes.
And if you're only getting a customer to transact with you once, you're incurring that cost every time you're making a sale. But the other key concept you mentioned was the lifetime value of a customer. And I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but lifetime value is the value over the lifespan of that customer. The higher that is, the more that they transact with you, the better that is. But you're not increasing the cost of acquiring that customer. You're just getting more sales from them in the future.
Yeah, correct. And so there's a couple of pretty simple examples. So like a lifetime value, let's say you have a product that's like, it's a perishable product. So it's something that I have to constantly repurchase, right? So let's just use as an example, like shampoo and conditioner, right? A lot of people will use the same shampoo and conditioner for years. They've used it once. It's worked really nicely. They know the brand. They know the product. They know they like it. They run out and they just go and order it again, right? And so that is a product from an e-commerce perspective that is amazing from a lifetime value, because I've brought someone through my funnel. They've made a purchase. They align with our quality. They align with our brand, our values, everything that we kind of stand for. And they're just going to stick with it, right? I've used the same like skincare routine from the same brand for the last 5 years, and I have no intention of changing. The other way of looking at it, which works really well, is like a subscription service, right? So as an example, I get my coffee delivered on a subscription service. Every month I get a new bag of coffee that just goes fortnightly, a new bag of coffee that just comes through. And I don't have to worry about it. And so my lifetime value is really high. And maybe it took me a while to choose the brand, and my cost per acquisition may have been $50, $80, even $100 from a meta perspective. But once I'm in the brand, I'm there, and I'm locked in. And I think that's where people kind of are missing the point of like, how do we get people to spend as much money as possible with us and with our brand, rather than having to pay for that new customer every single time they come through?
So I think, we make more profit the more a customer spends with us. But if we're only thinking about that initial sale, we're sort of, I guess, cutting off a lot of our future revenue. We're also increasing our cost of making that sale. Our margins are lower. But if we take a longer term view, so looking after the lifetime, having a longer lifespan of each customer, that customer's going to be more profitable to us. It seems very straightforward and simple. Why do most brands get this wrong?
I think it's a difficult thing. Like finding the product, I think, is often quite difficult. And I think there's lots of different ways that people get to whatever product that they're selling, right? Like maybe it's a problem that they were solving for themselves, right? They've invented something or made something because they were solving, there was a problem that they felt and they created a solution. What I find when people start these e-commerce stores and brands is that they haven't really understood their customer well enough. And they're just like, this product is really good, but they haven't worked through the core things that makes an e-commerce product profitable, sustainable, growable. And maybe their product is great, but maybe it's not suited for e-commerce, or maybe it's not the right platform, or they're just doing what everybody else is doing, what all the gurus are telling them, but they haven't worked through like, what's the average order value? What's the repeat purchase rate? What's my cost per acquisition? What are my margins? How are they coming through? Like these key things that we think about when we look at these products, and they've just gone, this is a cool product. People need this product. I'm going to go and sell it. But then they forget about the cost per acquisition. And that's where their margins always get screwed. And it's like, it doesn't matter how many I sell. If my margin's not good, I'm not going to make any money on this long term. And I think that's where people kind of get lost with their intentions are probably pure of trying to sell a good product to a good customer, but they haven't understood the basic principles of e-commerce to make sure that it actually works long term.
So e-commerce, like, I guess what we're seeing with e-commerce to be a successful e-commerce store, and I guess this principle applies to pretty much every kind of business, is that you need to have more than one sale to a customer. Yeah. You need to be thinking, what's the way that I can make a second sale and subsequent sales to each customer? And looking at what kinds of products do I stock? What's the need? Like you mentioned the coffee process, which we call a subscription. There, you're used to buying it. It's comfortable. It's what you like, and you just want that constant supply of it. But sometimes we will buy a product and we don't need anything else. I can think of so many stores where I've purchased one item from and never needed to go back. But if you can structure your product offering so that you've got something that complements or a replacement or a consumable that goes with that product, then you're going to increase those sales. But how do you make sure you are the person that gets that sale and not your competitor?
Yeah, so I think the main focus there and where this really plays out is the whole acquisition side of things. So how are we getting the traffic to our website? How are we educating the people out there of what our product is, what it does, what are the benefits of it? And majority of the time, it's a pay-to-play type of game. So whether it's Meta ads, Google ads, organic social media, SEO, like all of these paid channels that you kind of get into, and really that just comes back to acquisition. What channels are we using and how much are we going to use them and how much spend is going to go in them to get as much traffic as possible to the site? And that's one of the first metrics that we look at and one of the key things that we try and understand when we work with any brand or in general when just chatting to an e-commerce owner is how can we increase the amount of traffic? Once you've got the traffic to your site, then we look at, well, what's the conversion rate? What percentage of people that we can get onto the site, land on your site, and then actually purchase something. And if we can then increase that conversion rate, that's a great win, right? So we can get the same amount of traffic, but increase the conversion rate. And they're kind of the two things from an acquisition perspective that we need to focus on. And there's a few different elements of that. And I'm going to focus on meta advertising as kind of like the main one in my example, is that I think nowadays there's people spend hours and hours every single day on social media. They're scrolling, they're wasting time or whatever they're doing. I like to think it's a good use of time. I call it market research, but it's a waste of time. And I'm scrolling and looking through, but now every fourth or fifth post is an ad. And every single one of those ads needs to represent my brand in the way that I want it to be represented. And nowadays, with the algorithms and the structures that we have there, we need to test a whole variety of different creatives. And to go back to our original point when people say, marketing doesn't work for my business, it's like, well, you haven't built a system here to actually test it, to scale it, to try different hooks, try different angles. Have you really understood your audience? And what we're doing here with our creative testing is trying to test all of that. Who are we talking to? What do they want to hear? How do we want to tell it to them? Maybe there are product benefits, but every benefit, it has 5 different ways that we can say it. And each one of those ways that we say it applies to a different type of customer. So I think it's really important that we test these paid ad strategies and we try and increase the traffic. And conversion rate, as I touched on before, one has to do with like the content that's on the website. If the website doesn't load, or the content is bad, or it doesn't kind of resonate back to what the ad said, there'll be a disconnect. But the other side is we need to actually just make sure that the ad and the landing page say the same thing, they solve the same problems, and that there's a real cohesion going on here between what the brand is talking about. And for me, one of the things that I really focus on, and I think is really crucial, especially nowadays when there's so much competition and so many other people out there, is what makes you special, what makes you stand out, and how are we going to tell that story to the audience so that they understand that what you sell is different to the 5 other people that sell a similar thing. And that's where that advertising comes in, and making sure that things are on brand, making sure that you're building a brand. I'm personally not interested in like the drop shipping type e-commerce stores, or it's just kind of like a rubbish product, or we're just trying to generate revenue. I'm much more interested in let's build something that's sustainable, that's helpful, that has a purpose in this world, that is beyond just like selling some random piece of junk. And I think with that comes with brand building. And I think people are not logical. They're psychological. They need to be sold to, educated on, and I think that's where that advertising comes through. And that's like a big part of that advertising play.
So you're advertising, you've got to have a definite strategy, but I'm hearing it's a long-term strategy, not just a short-term. And I think that's where a lot of business owners get this very wrong, is that they're looking for the quick fix, the Band-Aid, the immediate results, but not willing to invest the time and the resources in the long term. Now, if you're going to be spending, funds on advertising, a strategy, you want to make sure it is actually working. You've got some, understanding who you're marketing to, who your customer is, and measuring the results. But once you've spent or invested all that time, it's very important that you actually have those follow-up sales. And I think here is where the power of having your acquisition through your advertising and your email retention strategies working hand in hand, it becomes so powerful.
Correct. I think I haven't checked this number 100% recently, but I'm pretty sure Google released saying that it takes 11 to 17 touch points to convert a customer. And that, to be honest, it could be more than that now. There's so many ads, so much competition, so many things out there that people need to see you time and time and time again. And if you've only just started advertising, they don't know who you are yet. They don't know what's going on. They haven't had a chance to make their way through that funnel. They may not even be problem aware at this time, right? They're not looking for a solution, but all of your ads are just giving them a solution, but they don't know what the problem is yet. And so when we're creating this advertising, it's really important to think about that funnel, and that someone's come in and maybe some of your ads are saying like, are you struggling with this, or this, or do you have problems with that? And it's helping people identify, oh, maybe I actually do have that problem. And then they're becoming problem aware. And then your next layer is you're giving them a solution to that problem, and they're now becoming solution aware. And as they kind of make their way down, that is when they can get to that conversion phase. And that's where email really comes in as well. So maybe we've got somebody at the top of funnel that's come through, they've clicked on the website, they've filled in their contact details, and they've joined the database, right? Essentially, that pop-up that comes up on the website is really crucial to actually making sure that we're acquiring that person's details. Once we've got those details in the back end of Klaviyo, we can segment those customers really, really easily. Shopify and Klaviyo work really well together, and all of that data is really accessible to people. It used to be quite complicated. It's now really simple. And then from that, we can create different flows, different automations, different campaigns to speak to different problems as that goes along. And each one of those emails they receive is another touch point. But it's a much more educated touch point because I know where they are in the funnel. So I can write the type of questions that they might have. I can answer those problems that I think that person in that stage of the funnel might be fighting for or trying to work out what they need. And so they're also going to be seeing ads throughout. The ads haven't stopped, right? So there's still ads running. There's still more touch points, and I'm getting them on email, and they've gone on my website, and now they've probably spoken about it with a friend or shared a post or seen my organic socials, and every single one of those kind of comes together. And so I think that's the part that people get wrong. And most brands in general are always going for the bottom of funnel. And realistically, people that are in their purchase behavior and in their cycle, that last percentage is like 3% of customers. And everyone's always fighting for the same 3%, but they forget about the 97. And it just takes everyone time to get through the funnel to become the 3. And that's the conversion. And where email really comes in is like, cool, how do we get them to come back again and again and again? And then we can use email to keep that nurturing and keep that lifetime value as high as possible. Because then I don't have as many people up the top. I've got more down the bottom. And that's where that real power comes in.
I'm starting to see a lot more when I do visit an online store, an e-commerce site, that one of the first things I'm presented with is perhaps some kind of offer, maybe a discount or a first purchase bonus or something like that. But to get that, I have to sign up for the newsletter. Is that a strategy that's working to capture people's attention and just keep nurturing them after that initial discovery?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of different strategies for your pop-up, but essentially those pop-ups that happen is really the fastest and easiest way to get the person's email address and contact details. So that is the most important part. If I don't have your email, I can't send you an email, right? So essentially the way that I look at it, the most common one is, let's say, 10% off your first order, right? That's the most common thing that's out there. Essentially, the way I look at it is that you're just paying 10% to get that person's contact details. But with emails, there's email flows and automations that happen. Most of those flows are there to help get the conversion. Once I have a conversion, I've got your details, so I can send you emails. But I can't automate or trigger any of those pre-emails if I don't have your email address. So I can't send you a welcome email. I can't get a browse abandonment email, an add to cart, like abandon and add to cart, abandon at checkout. Those 4 flows are literally set up to help educate you as much as possible on the product that you're looking to buy to help get you one step further or closer to converting. So if I don't get those details, then I can't send you those. So that's the way that I look at it. It's extremely crucial to make sure that we're constantly growing our list. We're constantly getting more people on there. I'm not worried if people leave. If people leave, see you later. Like, I'm not worried about them because they were never going to become customers. We set up flows and automations to automatically suppress people if they don't engage, because I don't really want them there. There's no need to just have people on the list for the sake of it. So that's really important to have like good list hygiene to make sure that our deliverability score stays high, our open rates are good, our click-through rates are good, and having that list hygiene is really important. But with those pop-ups, it's really good to test those out. So your standard 10% off, the reason it's standard is because it works, right? Like, it genuinely does work. It's still an excellent strategy. 9 times out of 10, that's the first thing we're going to try for any brand. Let's just give it a go. Let's make sure that at least we have that. Like, that's the standard. But even the way that that's written, I see a lot of e-com brands sign up. They have that there. The pop-up comes up and it says, join our newsletter, and then in small font, and get 10% off your order, right? You need to flip the hierarchy. No one cares about your newsletter, right? Like, realistically, we're signing up because I want that 10% off because I think I'm going to buy something. So make it bold, right? And then let's see if we can get some social proof in there. Say, join the 15,000 happy customers and get 10% off. And I'm like, oh, there's so many people that have bought this before. People have really liked it, and I'm going to get 10% off. Sure, I'll sign up, right? And so, like, that's the psychology that kind of goes behind it. But it is good to test out different things. One that works really well at the moment is like entering some sort of giveaway. So maybe that would be like win a $200 store credit or a voucher, or if you're selling a product, I don't know, as an example, going back to shampoo, win a year's supply of shampoo. And like, the cost to the company is so marginal, but you get so many more people signing up. And it actually could be a lot more beneficial for you long term than giving 10% off every order. But again, playing into the psychology of the customers that are coming in. They're like, oh, I can win free stuff. That's cool. I'm going to give it a go, you know? So, and it's a little bit of like a pattern interrupter. So it's a bit different to what everybody else is doing.
So there's some really good examples you've given of things that work well, and you're giving us some tweaks on, changing some of the messaging.
Yeah.
You've got to put the effort in to do this. It's not just a case of offloading it and signing up for the cheap and nasty version that's going to get you the results. You do need to spend some time with this.
Yeah.
What would be the absolute non-negotiables if you were limited and were trying to set this up? What would be the absolute minimum that you would need to put in place?
So the minimum that I'd be kind of putting in place is to make sure that all of your email flows are set up, structured, and running. And what I mean by that is not just like one email in a welcome flow or setting up one abandoned and add to cart flow. There are 5 core or 6 core flows that every single e-commerce brand should have. That's your welcome flow, browse abandonment, abandon and add to cart, abandon at checkout, post-purchase, and a win-back flow. And that covers the majority of that buying lifecycle. And within each one of those flows, you need to make sure there are at least 3 to 5 emails per flow. Because it takes more touch points than just one touch point to engage someone. And if your open rates are not fantastic, let's say your open rates are 30%, only 30% of the customers actually opened it. So we need more attempts of getting those, like getting people to actually even see the email, open the email, and engage with it. And so at an absolute minimum, every single e-commerce store has to have those flows set up. And then there's a whole variety of flows. We recently worked on a client. We built out 22 different flows for them, and you can make them really specific. It could be a product-specific flow, a service-specific flow, you could have a lead magnet-specific flow if there's like an education-based piece of content, and I can have a flow that goes off that. There's an infinite amount of flows to have that set up. And then making sure that your Klaviyo and your Shopify are linked correctly, because sometimes people misalign the linking and then they don't have a pop-up. Make sure the pop-up is there. Make sure that it's good. And then at an absolute minimum, I'd be sending 2 campaigns a month. At an absolute minimum.
So two per month. So you're looking at 24 emails to a customer over a 12-month period, plus all your working with all your paid advertising and your socials and your website. So that's quite a lot of touch points, because I know that I will often get emails and I will probably only look at every 3rd or 4th one that captures my interest. And I'll look at that 3rd or 4th one because the subject or the title captures my attention, but the other 3 didn't. So the persistence and consistency are very key to here, but making sure you've got that strategy in place. This seems like it might be just too much work for some people. I guess the next logical step is for them to have a conversation with someone like you. Talk to Stephen at PCOS. Look, we're going to put your contact details in the show notes and also on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website, because I think, look, if you're very serious about your e-commerce store or your business in general, but e-commerce is particularly the thing that Stephen's focused on, you've got to do it correctly. And look, if you're running your business, you probably don't have the skills, and this is where you should be using somebody else that has got the skills, experience, and the knowledge to help you make this successful and grow your business. Stephen, it's been absolutely fantastic what you've covered today. Certainly, email is still one of the very most undervalued growth levers for any business, particularly when you pair it with your ads to scale your acquisition. The key is you've got to do this. You can't ignore it. You can't just pretend that email is dead. You've got to have both systems working fully in your business. Otherwise, you're trying to fly the rocket with half the parts missing. Not a great outcome and not a great use of your funds. Is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
I think just one last nugget in there is, a lot of people talk about, and I talk about it as well, that 30 to 40% of your online revenue should be coming from email. And that sounds like a crazy number. Like 30 to 40% of online revenue is massive. It's not a lie. I could literally open Klaviyo accounts right now and show that it's possible. And so when people go onto their Klaviyo and they see 5-10% attributed revenue and all these kind of things and think it's good, it's not. And it's time to like take it seriously, really work on it. If you need help, I'm more than happy to help. I do free consultations and audits and all those kind of things. There's no cost. Like just reach out and I'm happy to kind of help you out there. But yeah, it's worthwhile giving it a go and really kind of diving into the world of email.
Oh, that's great news. And look, great to have some, I guess, benchmark about what's actually a good level to achieve, because a lot of time we'll set our bar way too low. Good to have a standard. Good to know where to get help. Contact Stephen Gringlas at PCOS. Contact details will be in the show notes. And look, if you know another business owner who needs help with this as well, don't keep this a secret. Share it with them. Help them grow, because the more businesses that grow, the more it's just a better business world to live in. So thank you again, Stephen, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been great to chat.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favourite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions, because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes, along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.